Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Golf Business Live. I'm your host, Michael Williams, bringing you everything about golf from the people who do it to the people who do it. That is the golf course owners. Love doing this gig, love doing this work because not only do I get to meet the best people in the business, you get to learn so much about the business. That's the way I feel, and I hope you feel the same way too. This show is, of course, sponsored by Supreme Golf. We thank them for their continued support of this grand enterprise. And without further ado, let's get ourselves started. This is my favorite segment of the show, which is owner to owner. We have people who are actually in the business day to day doing this thing, talking about what they do well, what they wish they could do better, all of those things on the theory of less of me and more of them. Let's get right to it. Joining us today are two owners I think you all know very, very well. A former president of the board of directors of the National Golf Course Owners Association, Rock Lucas, the owner-operator of Charwood Golf Club in South Carolina, and also Whitey O'Malley, the general manager of Saddleback Golf Club in Firestone, Colorado. Gentlemen, welcome to our show.
Hi, guys.
And it's a long time coming. We've been trying to get this thing together, and I'm so glad to see both your smiling faces. Let's see who's where. Whitey, you're in Colorado, isn't that right?
Yeehaw, yep.
Just outside Denver? Saddleback is just outside Denver?
Yep, Saddleback is outside of Denver, just north of it.
Okay.
Coach Prime territory, yeah.
Outstanding. And Rock, you're in South Carolina?
Yep, that's correct. We're a couple miles out from the Columbia, from the capital. So South Carolina's not that big. So we hour and a half from the mountains, hour and a half from Charleston, from the headquarters, and 3 hours from Myrtle Beach. So it's a good thing to be a small state. You're not too far from anything.
Outstanding. Well, now I have cousins in Columbia, South Carolina, so I have yet another reason, as if I needed another reason to come visit you down there and put some divots in your place. So, last year when we talked to golf course owners, a lot of it was about the lingering effects of the pandemic, and I think we're sort of fully escaped the tail of that dragon, so far. While it was obviously an upheaval for everybody, it also, of course, brought a bunch of golfers out into the golf course. Every statistic, every measurement tells us that. Whitey, I'll start with you. Over the course of last year, what did you learn from the pandemic, from that whole pandemic period? And do you agree with me that we're fully out of that that whole period? Is that behind us now?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because there's still like 2,400 people going into for pandemic reasons in the hospitals in Colorado, but it's still I would say we're definitely out of it. I mean, the lingering effects of it as far as the golf playing it's still there. I mean, we're down, from a high of 45,000 starts in 2020 down to 35, but that's up from 28,000 starts in 2019. So.
Right. Right. So the numbers are still there with us. You still have that. You're experiencing that growth, that push of new golfers that came during that sort of 2-year window.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. It's still, I mean, the difference between 2022 and 2023 though, is our revenue is up mostly because of the dynamic pricing. We're up 9%, but the big story is that expenses are up 20%. So, yeah, it really kicked us in the butt this year. I mean, we knew it was coming, though. You could see the signs. It wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, we all have to deal with the economy, the larger issues, whether it's the economy, whether it's the pandemic, the combination of those two, and other things. Rock, I'll throw the same question to you in terms of where we are now, sort of the tail end of the pandemic. We're still seeing some of the new golfers and the growth in the tee sheet that the game has brought us, also seeing the changes in the economy. What's that been like for you over the course of the last year?
A lot like what Whitey just said. I mean, we still following, having that boom. Matter of fact, we had so much play that we've been intentionally this year going into 2023, we intentionally tried to reduce play by 5,000 rounds, but also keep the revenue or increase the revenue while trying to do the same. And we actually did it. We haven't gone to dynamic pricing yet, but that's a whole nother conversation at this time. But our golf course isn't that big. Our greens isn't that big. Our tees aren't that big. So it's not designed for that much volume of play. So we had to actually reduce the amount of play. be more picky and choosy on outings. Don't take any more new outings, that sort of thing. We could have that whole conversation, but yep, COVID's still around, but the flu is amazing. The flu disappeared for about 2 years, and now the flu is back hot and heavy. So I don't quite understand that, but we won't go there. And like Whitey mentioned, although our revenues are up, I bought 2 isolation valves because we're trying to do some improvements on some things, capital improvements that got deferred. So we're going around and replacing some 20, 30-year, 40-year-old isolation valves. And it used to be the rule of thumb was, $100 per inch. So a 4-inch valve would be $400. Now I just paid $1,200 for one 4-inch valve. So $2,200, $2,400 for 2 valves. So, that just tells you one idea of what the pricing has increased. And then the payroll is out the roof as well, just to stay competitive with, not a golf course, but with from an Amazon shipping to a Taco Bell to anything.
A very good point. And we'll come back to the HR challenges. I think that's a whole subject right there I want to get to for sure. I just want to clarify on the leverage, because as you were saying this, I had like some minor experience as a golf course operator myself. So when I'm thinking about the sliders that you have at your disposal to adjust that lowering play while raising or maintaining revenue, you can do the events is one thing that you can manage that with. Pricing is another thing. What can you be a little bit more specific about what you did to make that happen? Raise revenue while reducing rounds. That's a good formula there.
Well, on our end, we did a modified dynamic pricing, so we didn't go all in like Whitey. And truthfully, we're probably leaving. I did some research. What I wanted to do was we talked with a couple of groups. Could you take our T sheet and do an analysis of what we would left on the table under exact same circumstances, exact same bookings, had we had dynamic pricing versus not? And everybody came back and said, you're leaving about 10% on the table. So without doing dynamic pricing. So just for easy math, if somebody doing $1 million, they're leaving $100,000 on the table. We're leaving that on the table. We're leaving a lot more than that on the table, but so we hadn't pulled that trigger yet. But other than that, we still do the same thing. So you don't discount your prices a lot. And this was on the Accelerate the other day, where a lot of people are going in the shoulder season prices. Why? If it's hot, if it's warm in the fall or winter or early spring is warm, they're going to play. Whatever the price is, they're going to play. If it's cold, they're not going to play, whatever the price is. And Dale Ratcliffe and I did a show on this years ago where you could almost do one like it was $1 per degree. So if it was 25 degrees or 30 degrees, it was $30. Well, if it's 30 degrees, they're not going to play anyway. So you might as well keep your prices at the rack rate. So the next day or that later on that week, if it's 75 degrees, you're going to be packed and slammed at your regular rate.
That's exactly
the price.
We did that one pay the temperature thing too years ago, and recently we've not recently, but we were asked, hey, why don't you have winter rate? And, our smart ass, we're smart ass on everything. So our comeback is no, we don't believe in raising rates during the winter. So
it's funny because I have this.
That'll get them.
In one of the notebooks off to the side here, I have the whole study that we did at one of our golf courses that I used to run. And again, we were at a golf course where we did about 80,000 rounds a year, that place. So every type of person shows up with every type of opinion about what the weather is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you spend 10 minutes with each customer fighting about whether it's $42 or $41.
You just do away with that, those shoulder season rates and everything, and just keep the same rate. And that's just been a huge difference there.
Yeah.
We eliminated a lot of discounts in some earlier times, and we still do a twilight. And the only reason we do a twilight, and if you can't get in 18, I've reduced the price to one price. If you play 8 holes, if it's packed and you play 8 or 9 holes, and that's what it is. If it's dead and you got in 19, 20 holes, that's fine too, because I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I don't care who your golf shop staff is. They're not checking to see at 5 or 6 in the afternoon if somebody played a couple extra holes. They're worried about getting out of here and locking the daggone doors. They're not going to see that this guy's on hole 12 when he only played 9 holes.
Amen.
It's not going to happen.
Amen. Why do you want to jump in there on that?
No, I 100% agree. Yeah. So with dynamic pricing, it just goes down. So, instead of, we're roughly around $60-$65 at that time of day, and it'll go down to 35 and you can play all you want. So essentially.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So again, getting back to how we operated over the course of this last year, this being sort of the end of the calendar year here, what So during these past couple of years, we've had supply issues on goods. I mean, everything from golf carts to hard rolls, were hard to get just because of supply chain. I think that's the most used word, in 2022, supply chain, the supply chain issues, and people. It was hard to get people. And you just alluded to that because you're competing against every other thing. You don't have sort of that line of students that's waiting to work for almost nothing in a bucket of balls, so they can work at a golf course. So I'll start with you, Rock, on the supply side of people. How have you managed to keep a steady stream of employees coming in other than being competitive with your compensation?
It's going to have to be, you've got to create a fun environment for them to work with. Now, I got to be 100% honest. My son and I are partners, and he's 30 years old. My certain staff thinks I'm too tough, I'm too disciplined and tough love, and don't believe in that. And that's 100% true. Every bit of it's true. But, I said, I treat everybody exact same. And then, hey, if I see something, we're going to call it out, and it is what it is. And then we're going to pat you on the back. So let's don't make that happen again, just like a football coach. They coach them up. The guy misses the block, misses the assignment. The coach meets him about 5 yards off the side of the field. Said, hey, man, we went over this, and, that assignment. You did it in practice, and he pats him on the butt. Next quarter, he misses the exact same assignment. The coach don't meet him 5 yards off, and he's not putting his arm around his shoulder. He's meeting him 20 yards off the field. He's got his hand around his face mask, and he's hoping that the camera's not zoomed in on what's coming out of his mouth. And I tell him it's time to grab some face masks. Sometimes you just got to grab them by the face mask and let them know what's going on. And then, hey, I still love you. But, we do that. And then we do a lot of events. We've got a Christmas party coming up. We do a lot of once a quarter, we do a little golf outing, and we rotate the staff so that somebody gets to play each time. And then we do a little cookout afterwards. And, we do blind drawing on the teams. And so we do a golf outing here on the property and cook out afterwards, and, supply a little, adult beverages. And then we'll go down the street to a little wing joint every once in a while and hang out. And so it's pay, it's hang out. I don't do as good a job as I should probably do at praising them up and coaching them up. Hey, man, you did a good job. You did a good job, because I'm one of those that you did what I paid you to do. Why should I tell you, hey, man, you did a great job turning the lights on this morning and unlocking the door?
We'll come back to that, man. Like late stage parenting, I call that. Yeah. And we'll come back to that. But what I'll say that, Rock, one advantage you have is being in South Carolina. Of course, you do have seasons, but your season is longer, almost to the point where you can hire people for almost a full year. You can have a larger full-time year-round staff. And one of the problems with being in a seasonal place, Washington, D.C. for sure, where I am, certainly in Denver, Colorado, is you have like that seasonal thing where you got to let people go, and then you got to try to get them back again. Then you let them go. How are you handling the people issue? Are you having any trouble at all getting good people? If you aren't, what's working for you?
For me in Denver, it's we built a hell of a crew, and I'm glad you brought that up about the people leaving in the winter, because we've really struggled. We have such a good crew that we've carried them through the winter, more than we typically would, because when you find, really good people, you want to hang on to them. So we have, and it's great around here because you can, this weekend's supposed to be in the high 50s. So we're going to get overrun this coming weekend. So we can put them to work. So that's fantastic. But, it's a great place to, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Everybody works hard, but it's, we don't take ourselves way too seriously. We have a lot of fun too. And, we got a profit sharing thing going. So if we hit certain numbers, they get a piece of the pie, and it's disproportionate to income. So if we get, every $100,000 we do above each segment, they get that much more percentage wise. And that's really helped out a lot, because, when you're all pulling the wagon in the same direction, and we're looking at renovating the pump house or buying new carts or whatever, I mean, they're looking at a short-term hit, but hey, it might bring, if we can keep our revenue up and increase the revenue in 2 or 3 years, we got to really think about this. So a lot of those decisions are being made now, and we're thinking about putting a teaching center on the driving range. So, it's all these long-term, everybody's pulling the wagon in the same direction. So it works out pretty good.
I think you kind of buried the lead there. I mean, that's kind of I mean, it's a fascinating thing to implement that employee sharing, that profit sharing issue, and I think it's an excellent idea, especially going to try to keep people in, over that seasonal thing, and have managed to do that. That's awesome. How did you develop and manage that? Did you do that on your own? Did you have a consultant come in and help you out with that? How did you implement that program?
Oh yeah, I did it on my own. No, it was my wife. Lana did it all. She made it a big spreadsheet. It's every job title, and in the state of Colorado now, if you're bonusing people, you are required to be able to substantiate your reasoning behind it. So that's a new rule that came in. I think it was like 2 to 4 years ago, and it's made us better operators because we can, we do. That's the way we do it, and it's helped out a lot. But hey, it's a way different. It's a way different way to look at a job when you can just say, hey, I want a new mower. Okay, well, that's $108,000 for that new mower. Are you sure? Because it'll affect the bottom line. It'll be, well, maybe not. Maybe we can get by one more year with that mower, or maybe we do need it. Who knows?
Or maybe we do. Right.
Yeah, because this last year we put in $150,000 into a pump station, and that really made it. And that was a big. We had to do it. So, but that's going to kick to the bottom line, and it's a capital improvement, and I get that. But it does affect our, the way we pay out the profit sharing. So it worked. It's working really good so far.
Yeah, we did our onboarding yesterday for the new enrollment for next year for our 401k, and the same type of thing, but it's a 401k, and you can either do a match or a percentage of payroll, and we do an analysis at the end of each year on which one we do.
Yeah,
and,
big money.
Yeah, I mean, doing that sort of long-term analysis and that sort of thing, and it sort of brings me to a topic that I wanted to get to, because we had the big TechCon thing in Las Vegas this year, and one of the things that really stood out for a lot of people was the idea of artificial intelligence, the AI, and that sort of thing. There's a lot of technology I want to talk about, but I'll just start there because it's sort of the headline of what everybody's talking about. Rock, have you had a chance to take a look at any of that or implement it, or is it just something that's sort of theoretical at this point in terms of your?
Well, right now for me, I'm just kind of sitting back and watching, and I know Whitey's way ahead of it because they sent us some emails and stuff that they've done, experimented, played around with it. But we're just going to kind of sit back and see what happens. And it's too early on the edge of the curve, so you let the guys like the MCOs, and you let the Hinkley's and the Pillsbury's and those guys go ahead and find out the cutting edge of it, and then we figure out what trickles down to guys like Whitey and us.
It sounds like two feud families in West Virginia, the Hinkley's and the Pillsbury's, going at it across the valley.
Those guys are so far ahead of everything, and so that's part about being on the board, is you get to be surrounded and exposed by some brilliant people that are very smart operators.
No doubt.
And I'll even, it's going to hurt me to say it, but I'm even going to throw Whitey in that group. But
no, come on now.
But and so you learn from these guys that are too far ahead of the curve that it's ridiculous, and so you just kind of say, okay, you can't implement and do everything they do, but you can learn, okay, what do they do that I can implement and I can learn from.
Right, exactly. Whitey, you've been anointed as the Associate Professor of Artificial Intelligence here at NGCOA University. Congratulations. So certificates on the way, pal.
Right.
Well, they meant, when they said that to Whitey, they meant that brain can't be real. That's got to be artificial.
Well, I'm going to ask you, since your wife isn't here, I'm going to ask you about it. What do you think about the artificial intelligence issue? How have you been using that?
Well, to tell you the truth, in TechCon, my daughter and pro shop director, she and my wife went to that AI deal, and they said it was absolutely fascinating and spooky and scary at the same time. But there's going to be some technology kicking out of that the golf industry can. It certainly, in my opinion, can be used to watch speed of play. If you have any way of tracking, your golf carts at all, it should be able to pick up on a problem way before the pro shop staff or even a marshal. I mean, we got rid of our marshals 10 years ago, but AI would be a really good application, in my opinion, to watch, where there's a potential problem coming in. So
yeah, and to anticipate it and then to alleviate it, both, in a briefer period of time.
Yeah, and same on the maintenance side of it. I think, if we can see, especially up in the Midwest where you got the disease pressures, it could watch a dampening off or a disease, something getting really close to the edge. It could be watching those temperatures and the humidities and sounding alarms there when you're not watching, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. I want to go from technology to natural resources, and I'll stay with you, Whitey, for this one, because you're in Colorado. We had the Colorado Basin Water Summit that was in Las Vegas at the same time. I think you there to take a look at that. What were your thoughts about that, and sort of share your impressions of that with folks who weren't there?
I thought it was it was fantastic. We had a comment from one of the speakers that was up there that said that he's been to a ton of these in California because they're on the tip of the spear, California and Southern Nevada and Arizona. And he said that he's been to a lot of these. He goes, "This is by far the best one." And I can see wanting to do that in another 2 or 3 years, do another get together like that, because that Colorado River, it's not getting anything but over allocated. So the issue is probably not going to go away. It's probably going to be rearing its ugly head again in 2026 when they're going to be implementing the new Colorado rules. So it was absolutely fantastic, the depth and breadth of what was talked about there.
Yeah, and right, I know you obviously not in that Colorado Basin, but water management, water resources are important to every single golf course owner. Did you take anything, glean anything useful from that conference, and what other things are you dealing with locally in your area in terms of water resources?
Well, when you're on the East Coast, you better be paying attention to the West, because it all works its way out here. So you better be ahead of the curve. But fortunately, the Carolinas Golf Course Superintendents Association, which I've been a member of 35 years or so, they're way ahead of the curve. And so they created a BMP's best management practices procedure probably 15, 20 years ago, if not more. We also stay in constant contact with the governor's office and the governor's cabinet. And so we already have volunteer measures in place. We do voluntary water reporting usage every year to the Department of Health and Environmental Control, which is South Carolina DHEC. So matter of fact, I've got the form on my desk now. So at the end of the month, I'll fill it out. By the 30th of January, they'll have it back in their office. So they monitor every golf course's and every industry's usage of water from that year, prior year, and prior years before that. And then we have drought controls that if the water resources get to X, then we've already voluntarily went to Y on water usage. Mm-hmm. If it goes to the next level, so we have it all in stages, and we've already got all of what we are going to do in place in advance, and everybody's already signed off on it and agreed with it. So in a lot of ways, we're ahead of the curve on that. But we also have each water basin area has a representative as well, and they're monitoring everything. So
yeah, that all falls under that broad advocacy term, which is something that's so important to NGCOA members, the work that gets done there as far as that's concerned. So clearly you've learned your chops.
Well, that's probably one of the most valuable tools and benefits of any membership, whether it's the Owners Association, the Superintendents Association, but that's the one that most people don't see. So if you're not an educated, and I hate to say it this way, but that's exactly what it is. If you're not an educated, involved operator, then you say, man, that's I don't have anything to do with that. That's not going to affect me. But then you're going to have those who are out there leading and carrying the flag and leading the charge. They're fighting for all those people who have no idea, that this is going to show up in your envelope one day, in your inbox, in your email, or, hey, by the way, you're going to have this fine, or by the way, this license or permitting fee that you didn't know was coming. You're going to have this water resource restriction that you didn't know was coming, pesticide restrictions, all the stuff that Ronnie is so really, really good at, that people have no clue how much that this association is out protecting their backs, protecting their wallets, and looking out their livelihoods, and they have no clue. They have no clue what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Ronnie Miles on the advocacy front for NGCOA and its members, because, AI can be artificial intelligence, but without that stuff that he's doing, AI is actual ignorance. You will from that in your operations. As we start to wrap this puppy up, I want to talk about a few things that are sort of in the general consciousness about golf, because we know the one thing that brings people to the table in terms of golf, well, there's two things, apparently a pandemic and Tiger Woods. and Tiger's playing again now. He's sort of like out there stalking and talking about playing a little bit. I remember when I first got into the game, the thing that brought people out to the golf course is they wanted to be like Tiger. They wanted to do that thing that he was doing. Is it a good thing for you? Brock, I'll start with you. Is it a good thing for you? Are you glad to see Tiger out there? Do you expect to see a little bump from that thing too?
I'd love to see Tiger out there, and I love personally watching him play when he's playing well. But when he was struggling, like at the Masters, it's painful to watch, and you feel bad for him. You say, "Man, is he ever going to come back, or does he just need to go ahead and hang up the spikes and and call it a day and get in the broadcast booth or something like that?" But I'd love to see him play. Now, do I think that we're going to have the boom that we did before from Tiger playing? I think it'll be more TV ratings and people wanting to watch televised golf just because Tiger's playing. And I know that I personally would watch an event that I normally don't. And I don't watch a whole lot of golf, except for the majors. I hate to say it, but we're too busy running a golf course and living life and all that. But so I watch the majors. But if Tiger was playing, I'm going to turn it on just to watch how Tiger's doing, and for that reason.
And I think there's another piece of that. When Charlie's playing with Charlie, that's going to be a big one too, because that's bringing in the whole family aspect of it. That's going to be pretty cool. And I think more athletes are being tracked with their kids. Like King James with his son playing college ball, or basketball and what have you, and his going through his injuries and stuff. But I think that's a big deal. That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Whitey. It's interesting that as a new generation of golfers come, that generation, as we get to know Charlie, because we know Tiger so well.
Right.
I agree. A ratings bump is more likely than a rounds boom. Maybe you get a round bump as well as a ratings bump as well. But if Charlie starts to really develop as a personality, that thing could be a magnet for the next generation of golfers that is in and around his age. So we'll take a look at that. One other thing, the big thing I want to get to before we go, was in the news, is the golf ball rollback. I know that most of it won't occur for 7 years. Rock's laughing already about that whole thing. But I was actually doing an interview with the USGA president, Fred Perpall, the day before they made the announcement. Nobody really knew they're going to make it. And he said in the interview, "You're not going to like us tomorrow." So he sort of gave us a taste of what was coming. A lot of people are getting really exercised about this thing. There's a lot of emotion surrounding it. I just want to get your thoughts. I have some thoughts about it, but again, less of me, more of you. Why do you start with you? Any feelings about that? And do you have any feelings about it as an operator?
The biggest concern is getting the golf balls. We're over 7,000 yards, like 7,040, and
at altitude.
I don't really have the room to get out to 7,500 yards, so I can see that aspect of it, and I wouldn't really look forward to lengthening it that much. Plus, when you get out there at 300 yards on a drive, 320, you got that much more to error left and right. You got that aspect of it too. So I don't know. I don't really think I'm more or less neutral on it. I know your idea about bringing the fairway cuts height up is going to
just grow the grass.
And
the fairways now look like the greens in 1970. So why not just grow the grass? Yes, go ahead.
But I'm kind of neutral on it as a owner in Colorado. I like technology, so I'd be talking out of both sides of my mouth. Not to love the new things out there, and but the V groove and the square groove thing, I think that was it wasn't that big of a deal. When they went to the V groove and or getting away from it, whatever the hell, what direction they went to there. Yeah. But it wasn't that big of a deal, but I don't know. Rock's a real player. What do you think, Rock?
Rock, what do you think?
You're right. They're getting 20 extra yards from fast and firm. They won't, so they're getting 20 extra yards a roll from that. So like I said, you can slow the golf course down a little bit and all that, but that's a whole nother world. You're only talking about 1% of the golf population.
If that.
If our golf course with 1 foot in the rough is going to be 6,600 yards, 1 foot in the rough, you can't hardly find a single divot on my back tee boxes on a par 3. I don't hardly have anybody playing those back tees. And matter of fact, we went to the forward tees, we moved them up, and then we changed all the colors. And I got more people playing the golf course shorter than I ever have playing it longer. So now I do have that generation of the, the 20-year-olds to maybe even up to 35 or 40 that they got pretty good. They got some new equipment. They started getting their handicaps down. So they went and started rotating and playing. They're still playing here a lot, but they'll go play some other longer golf courses from the back tees. But that's not who my bread and butter is. My bread and butter is the ones that's playing, 2 tee boxes up. They're going to be playing at 58, 59 to 62, 6,300 yards, and that's where all my money is.
There you go.
So they don't care one bit. The last thing they want is to roll the ball back. And, and as far as that, how many people put the ball out? Hardly any. How many people do you want to go back and re-tee if they hit the ball out of bounds? You go back to my golf course and re-tee, I'm going to kick you off the golf course. And then you have the audacity to say, okay, this is a game of integrity, and you can call a penalty on yourself if you're in the woods and the ball rolling, you're the only one, or there's another ball exactly like you're playing a Titleist one and you play that ball out, you're the only one, but yet you can't go out and play by yourself and post a score by yourself. So a lot of the stuff makes zero sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. We're doing a lot of talking about a change that affects about 500 guys and about 200 golf courses worldwide. And
I get the part today. I want to play about it. Hey, I want to play the same ball and the same clubs and the same rules and everything that the pros do. But I'm going to tell you rules. They're not playing the same rules. And but it's at the end of the day, I think it's our golfers. I don't think they see a big difference in the ball, but
10% in a teapot. By the way, the time on a 100-yard dash has gone down consistently from 1910 to 2023. And when you see the times getting faster, what do? Do you extend it? Well, now we're doing 110 yards, or we're going to do it 130. Because we want to keep the times around 10 seconds, so we're going to lengthen it. We're going to keep par as par. Athletes get better, track gets better, equipment gets better, times go down. Why is it a problem if people start to shoot 58 regularly? If they're the best players in the world, on these golf courses. I also want to know what the problem is with that, but discussion for another.
Yeah, I know I've lost a lot of yardage, so the last thing I need is somebody to roll the ball back. I need something to hit the first.
As my friend Robert Trent Jones Jr. says, my distance has left me for a younger man. So I get that. Okay, dead last question I want to have for you. Like the off-course golf, the things about Top Golf, that sort of thing. Anybody have or interested in getting Top Tracer or one of those sorts of things? Simulators, what are you using these days? Rock?
I actually did all the numbers, drew all the plans, was going to put a 12 bay on our range, and then a golf course down the street closed, got bought out by a very, very, very wealthy person who was going to put all this in at theirs, and they're about 3 miles down the street. And I said, well, they got deeper pockets. I'm just going to wait and see what they do and see what happens. And then I did a lot of homework. I mean, I've talked from, the Del Ratcliffes to the Kathy Harbins to Brad Mars down at Palmetto Dunes in South Carolina, the first one in our state to have it. Been to a lot of different properties, but a lot of it's tied into F&B. And I don't feel like spending a couple $100,000 to put it in F&B, to have to depend on F&B to pay my bills to do that. And I already have a staffing problem, especially in the F&B. I don't feel comfortable at this time, especially when Whitey just said, I need to do some irrigation upgrades to my system. I need to do a couple of greens rebuilds. I need to do some things here. And all of those are a couple $100,000 each. And, I've had this conversation with Jeff Hogue. He went and built a 6-hole short course. I've got land that I've already laid out, a 9-hole par 3. Would I do better on that than Top Golf or Top Tracer or whatever? I don't know, but I got a lot of other things I need to spend my money on and get my money back than I do on the Top Tracer.
I get you. Green grass first, last, and always. Whitey, you get the last word on this one.
Same here. It's not a top priority right now, but boy, it sure is looking juicy for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of potential out there for that and other things. As you say, the technology is expanding every day. There's going to be new things. We're going to see some of those new things at the Golf Business Conference, I'm sure, in Orlando in January. But I think we just about run the sands out of this hourglass. So I'm just going to say thank you so much, Rock. Thank you so much, Whitey. I know you've gone to Blair Witch Project on me right now. I don't know where you headed. You going to?
Yeah, I gotta go pick up my grandkids. I gotta go.
Well, we don't want to keep you.
If I don't pick those guys up on time,
we don't keep you from the grandkids, man.
Yep.
We know it's important, guys. Thanks so much. This has been a blast, and all the best for the holidays, the rest of the year. Have a great new year, and we'll see you hopefully in Orlando.
You too.
Thank y'all. Thank
All
you
right,
guys.
take care, guys. That's
Thanks.
Whitey O'Malley and Rock Lucas, two of the very best in the business. I again, as always with these conversations, I learned so much about how to think about things in a different way, in a creative way. And also at the same time as you're being creative, to have some judgment and have some prudence and not just dive head first into things just because somebody else says that it's the thing to do. And that's what it takes to be a great golf course operator. It's this fine balance between creativity and ingenuity and also wisdom and patience. All of those things come into play. And I think you just saw all four of those with those dudes right there. God, that was fun. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Golf Business Live. As always, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much to Taylor Wall, Harry Morrell, who put this thing together, Jake Karen, all the team down at NGCOA. Guys are the best. I do look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in Orlando, Florida for a Golf Business Conference. We hope you do see you there. But from all of us at NGCOA to all of you, have a great holiday season. Merry, happy, healthy, all of that. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Golf Business Live. For Golf Business Live and NGCOA, I'm Michael Williams. We'll see you soon. Bye now.